you. Hey, everybody, what's going on? So what's today's date? Do we know the date?
29th.
29th?
I think,
June,
or 30th. Or is today the
June
30th?
29th. Tuesday, June 29th.
Correction, it's the 30th.
Today's the 30th. Tomorrow's the 1st
yeah.
of 2020.
Believe it.
And
Halfway
we're over
through.
here at PFX Media.
Tomorrow's the 30th?
Yeah, no,
Tomorrow's
today's
the-
the 30th.
Oh, today's the 30th.
Tomorrow's the
first.
1st. Yeah, we're halfway
July starts tomorrow, and we have our producer, Dean Baker.
Well, happy July Eve, guys.
Mean
Yeah, it was,
You know?
if you ask me, it's still March.
Yeah.
But
You wait a minute. You want to repeat that 3 months all over
no,
again?
I don't want to repeat that. I
sure
want them
wouldn't.
fresh.
Yeah.
I
So
want a do-over.
enough about me. We got Gene Culver.
What's up, man?
So we were supposed to have someone else,
Don't make me feel bad.
but we're not going to throw that guy under the bus. And Gene was kind enough to step in this person's place. But Gene also happens to be a very interesting individual
Uh-oh.
with a slightly different background.
Yeah.
One from music.
Yeah.
And
Mine's all
and,
music.
and the way I understand you, it's a legacy situation, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how is it that one steps into a legacy music business position?
So my mom and dad were there when that whole thing happened. I wasn't. Yeah, my father's been in the entertainment industry for a number of years now, since the late 60s. And he wrote a song called Duke of Earl, which was at that time #1 hit in the country, February 17th, 1962.
62?
Yeah,
62.
1962. Yeah. So
I can sing it in my head. It's in my head.
Right.
I'm of that age when I know that song.
You know that song.
yeah, but we'd have to charge you. So
Yeah, I
so at the end of the day, yeah, this is
How
he's
old a
still
man was he
1962.
when he wrote it?
You know what? It's funny. Like I think, so he was born in 1940 and change. So I think that he was probably like 18, 19, something like that. Because it started off with a group called the Duquesnes, and then there was all these songs that they wrote, and then when they split up, they were like, "Well, which song do you want?" And
so
Dad
it
was
was
like,
a-
yeah, they were warming up on the piano, with the do 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 do, and so he was like, I want this one. They were like, okay, you can have that, and Dad took that one. And
that
turned
was
it into-
before it was published.
That was before it was published, before it was a hit, and then they turned Duke of Earl into
So
a hit.
what part of the world are they in when they're getting together writing these songs?
Chicago, so like
they're
that
in
was not far from
Chicagoland,
Motown,
and they got it all. There's a lot going on around them,
a lot.
and they're young bucks,
Yep.
and they're like, we can do this.
Yes.
And did they
Yes.
have formal training, or they just
No, not that I was aware of. I mean, when he tells the story, I never hear anything about.
they
like,
just
formal
sat
training. It's
down
just-
with whatever natural talent the good
Yeah.
Lord gave them,
Yep.
and started tinkering with Mom's piano or
Yep.
whatever was in the room.
Exactly.
And how many guys were in the room?
I think there were 4 in the Duquesnes. I think 3 of them have passed away. There was a lady that was in there, and there was 3 guys. So, and they were just warming up. And my dad had gone into the service for a while, served the country.
Oh wow!
And when he came back out to this hit.
So was that Vietnam?
1962. You'd have to ask somebody much older than me. I believe the 62.
Right.
There's been so
Well,
many.
no.
I mean, well,
No, that
obvious-
wouldn't have been.
Not
that
62.
It wouldn't have been
We need a
Korea,
historian to.
Korea would have been
50s?
Yeah, late 50s, right?
late 50s,
Yeah.
and then the conflict started kind of early, but
But I
we
mean, he
didn't
could have
really
just
get into
served.
it. Yeah.
He just
Yeah,
went into the
obviously,
service. He
yeah.
might
Yeah.
not have been active duty. It
Absolutely.
might not have been a wartime
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
But he went in,
Yeah.
and when he gets out, the song was already.
The song was already
charting?
on its way up, and Chubby Checker had the #1 hit in the country at that time called it was either like The Twist or Don't Knock the Twist, and back in that day, and he knocked it from #1 to #2, and Duke of Earl took over #1 in February 17th, 1962.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long did it stay on the charts?
I don't know, man, but long enough that he kept collecting checks, and so when I decided to get in the business, I thought about those royalties.
So then he wound up. What else did he do? And so he wound up going into publishing because he realized the
Yeah.
business aspect of it. He wasn't a player.
Right.
He wasn't a musician.
No,
Right. He had just
wasn't a musician.
tinkered and
Yeah.
wrote the words and was with enough people that the thing got into a producer's hand. They created the song with musicians and then gave it
Exactly.
to an artist and said, "You're going to record this," because back then
Right.
it was a different world.
Absolutely.
There was
Absolutely.
writers. Actually, Dean would love to talk about this and add this to the movie aspect, right? Because we
Right.
had a conversation last week where You know, these days, a guy writes something and he thinks it's his child and he doesn't let go of it and he goes, oh, and I'm going to take it all the way to the Oscars.
Yeah, you were paying attention where I talked
So,
about that. huh?
but back in the day, that's
My
not how it
baby.
happened, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it was writers over here and performers over here and producers in the middle.
Right.
You know, that
Right,
made it
you
all
know.
happen.
Big,
Right,
you know?
big,
Yeah.
big respect to writers. Writers, they can imagine things on paper that we can only we need. We
Yeah.
need that. We need that imagination to kind of bring to us where we can add some visuals to their
Yes.
imagination. So
Yeah.
big.
Hats
you know,
off to the writers. I mean,
hats
it's
off, you know.
incredible what they come up with and some of the lyrics that they come up with, and you
Well,
know.
how many actual different words are in Duke of Earl? I'm just because I know the
Well,
chorus.
nowadays, there's only 6 words in a song.
Yeah, it's
I
right?
know
different.
the chorus is you know.
I don't think the
you
song's
know.
more than like 3 minutes. I think it's like 2.5 minutes
Oh
or
yeah,
something
nothing
like that.
was
So back
very
then,
long back then.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you wanted to get
Cut
it
it
on the
down
radio.
305.
Cut it down, right? Exactly. And he originally wanted the violins in the song. Like I can't hear it today, but
Wow.
he heard it, and he insisted on the violins, but it wasn't in the budget, and so they wind up just doing the song without the violins, and then it was a hit. So. But he went on to write songs like Backfield in Motion. He wrote a song called Groovy Situation, and Rainbow was another song that he
So
wrote.
is he
Yeah.
still with us?
Oh, yeah. Dad's like 79,
I'd
almost
love
80.
to talk to him one day, too.
Yeah.
So,
Get him on the phone.
so,
Yeah, right.
so you know,
Yeah,
it's-
but as he said, you're like, who's this? Hey, what do you want? Yeah.
How do you work this sprinkle thing?
But you know what's funny, though? My dad is and you might be able to relate to this when you think about it. My dad's a young 79.
yeah.
Like there's some people who are 79 bent over and waiting
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
crane to lift them to heaven.
yeah.
Like whereas my dad is 79 years old and he's still like moving around the country. He still does shows. He's having a good
does?
time. Oh yeah, he's having a
does
good time.
shows?
Yeah, so he doesn't do them as much because he doesn't have to, you know. But he still goes out and does a show every now and then, and he puts on the same type of performance. He has this this hat that he wears. Of course, if you've ever seen him. So when he started off in the 60s, he understood how to create an image
Yeah.
in the music industry.
Yeah.
So he had the monocle. He
Oh,
had
you're
the
kidding.
top hat. He had the cane. If you ever
Wow.
Googled the Duke of Earl or Gene Chandler or anything like that, you'll see that, you know,
He had it
was,
going
oh,
on.
he knew that he needed to be a character, and being that character, what made him memorable along with the song. And
Yeah.
they didn't have MTV back in the day.
No,
they had
no,
none
no.
of that stuff. So he really, literally just
But they
became
knew
a
like
character.
a certain thing.
MTV?
Like, you know, back then, you know, certainly you dressed well on stage
Yes.
in 1962.
Right.
It wasn't until the Beatles
yeah.
came out, and even the Beatles and the early Rolling Stones, they were all in suits.
Right.
It wasn't until the late 60s that they started, 67 and past, that they started relaxing stage wear and became a little more, you know.
Right.
And the hair was longer.
Yeah,
and,
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my hair was belong for 1962.
You think so?
Oh, a little bit, dude. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Now, did that?
I mean,
performance-
mine's short because there was afros. We sported.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
afros.
I've been watching late night on Rabbit Ears digital television. There's a channel locally that's channel 6.5, and it's called Decades, and they play old stuff. I am watching. Who's the guy? Really Big Shoe. You know, he does he had the
Ed
late
Sullivan
Ed
or something
Sullivan.
like that.
I've been
yeah.
watching Ed
Oh, wow.
Sullivan on
Yeah.
television like every night.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was on there and I was watching. I mean, he'd always have some weird juggling act. He'd always have some, you know, comedian. He had a comedian that was playing the xylophone. I mean, it was just some crazy stuff.
Wow.
And then he had the Rolling Stones,
Yeah.
you know, on, and they're doing their thing, and they're, you know, and for 60s TV, you know, watching the Stones on
That must
Ed
have been
Sullivan.
ridiculous, yeah.
I mean, people,
Yeah.
their minds had to have been blown. Anybody at that time,
Yeah.
Ed Sullivan's
It's
age,
just like Chuckles, the clown who plays the xylophone from the, and they got him off
Right.
the boardwalk
And-
Right,
in
yeah.
Jersey.
Exactly.
You know,
It's
and-
true. That's
So
true.
I'm just wondering
true,
if Duke of Earl ever got on the Ed Sullivan show, if it was number one, you know, Ed Sullivan probably at one time or another said, "We
Yeah.
got to get these guys on."
I've never seen any footage or heard him talk about the Ed Sullivan show, but I've heard him talk about like American Bandstand, and
Right.
of course at that time
That
in
was
the
early,
70s,
yeah.
my father was the original, believe it or not, the original host of a show called Soul Train.
Oh.
And so Soul Train started off in Chicago,
Yeah.
and then they had John Cornelius.
I
and Don
watched Soul
Cornelius was
Train
on
as
all
a
the
kid
time.
all the time.
Yeah, so he was like the original host of that
We
in
all
Chicago.
watched. I mean,
Soul
it
Train
was the
was
only thing
great.
on that wasn't
Saturday
like,
mornings and
you
that
know,
kind of thing.
ABC's Worldwide of Sports and
Right.
Soul Train
Right.
or
Yeah,
bowling or something like
I
that.
love Soul Train.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So he was the original host of it, and then of course they went on to add Don Cornelius, who has then since
No
passed
kidding.
away. But yeah, Dad was the original host. But he's been on Soul Train a number of times, and my brother, who's also an artist who was signed to Motown at one point, he was on Soul Train when Prince was on there. So it's been pretty
so
interesting.
how
Prince
old
was
is
on
your
Soul
brother?
Train? Wow.
So my brother's a little bit older than me. He's
course that was
probably in
80s.
well, I'm 29, so he's probably hey. But yeah, he's a little bit older. He's like 50.
I think
you know,
that
50
shirt's
change.
29 years
I
older.
think this is a medium. I didn't even know I was going to be on here
I
today.
know you walked into something tonight, didn't you?
So,
But good people, so I'm okay with it.
so your brother's what kind of entertainer is
Yeah,
your
he's
brother?
singer. He's a singer too. So he sings now with a group called the Originals. And so what has happened is like when he was with a group called Flow, which was for Lovers Only, was the acronym Flow. They were signed to Motown, and then Motown said, "Okay, this group isn't going to take off." So
Yeah.
they started saying, "Okay, you're going to go with the Temptations, and you're going to go with this group over here." And my brother was kind of sort of this lone star for a moment, and then the Originals picked him up. And they added him to the Originals, and so now he travels around from time to time. Of course, during this time,
Yeah,
you
now
know,
they're not-
nobody's
no one's touring, yeah.
no one's touring. But when they were touring, he would go to different cities, especially Valentine's Day. Like they would do 4 or 5
So
cities.
they're like
back
an
to
R&B
back.
kind of like
Yeah,
a smooth
R&B. The
R&B
Originals are
kinda.
R&B. Yeah, yeah. So,
And they play with a full backing band, or they have backing tracks.
you know what? Most of the time, depending on the venue, they'll play with a full band in the back.
Really?
There's nothing like having a full band play and controlling that
Yeah.
band. And my father loved to play with a full band in the back,
Yeah.
and did an amazing job at different like amphitheaters. I would travel with him, and you know, even obviously he was much older than me when we would travel, and he would get up in the morning at 5 a.m. We have to go to another city, and if you weren't ready, he'd leave you. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
just, you know, I got to get to this city, and we go to 3 or 4 cities, and I was worn out by the end, like in the middle of it, and he was like,
Yeah.
I don't get tired till it's over.
Getting up and going.
Yeah, he would go, man. He
You know,
would go.
I was always interested in films about where music start, like Walk the Line, the
Yeah.
story of Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And how he started, and there were traveling groups, and they were just artists traveling with other artists, and they'd be just working the circuit, you know, going from place to place to place, and then they just come in and do their little,
Right.
you know, their variety, you know, one group after another up on stage, moving
Yeah.
on to the next one, and then,
Yeah.
and you know, I always thought that was pretty interesting.
The stories and the biographies behind these people are just amazing. And, you know, my father obviously had to deal with, you know, racism during that time. So he couldn't stay at certain hotels, no matter how much money he had in his pocket. He couldn't eat at certain restaurants. And so they traveled on what was considered the Chitlin Circuit. You know,
I
these
was
little
going to bring it
small-
up, actually. I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
ask
it's
you, like,
okay.
so he was doing the Chitlin Circuit.
He did that Chitlin Circuit,
Yeah.
man.
And-
Depends
and
on,
you went
depends
with
on.
him.
I don't know. I didn't go with him. I was too young. But, you know, he would go to those locations, and they would welcome him in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, but see, today we don't call it that, although it's sort of like that, these little smaller venues where artists can go and perform and build your fan base, and that's
Well,
what he
you
did.
could make an argument that that's what Tyler Perry did in the movie business.
Yeah, so Tyler
You know,
did the same
He
sort of
did the same thing.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
he just went to his community and said,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'll do it.
We're
for
gonna
us,
specialize
Yeah.
and raise the level up a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
yeah, he
like,
did.
I know
He did.
your story. It's my story, and I'm
Right.
here to give it to you. Like,
Right.
don't worry about them. Who cares
Right.
about them?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he
and he did
welcomed
them well.
everyone, and you know, the first couple of shows, there was no one there. He spent all the money. He went, you know, I mean, my understanding is Tyler Perry hit rock bottom trying to do it. Like all of us have put a lot of energy and effort into bringing entertainment to the world, our version of entertainment to the world, and Tyler hit rock bottom trying to do it.
you know, the one thing about guys like that is that they have a value. They put so much value on $1 that it doesn't matter how much they make, because their value is in the single dollar, and every dollar has to count. So a guy like Tyler Perry, who's willing to go out and travel across the Chitlin Circuit or whatever it's called now in the movie, you know,
Sure, sure.
you know, he understood the value of every dollar he was spending and made it work for him. And it didn't matter if there was no crowd; he was going to do it again.
Right.
And he was going to do it again and do it again until every single one of his dollars came back to him.
Yeah,
You know,
and at
he
one
just said,
one
hey.
day they'll tell that full story of whatever it is with him. But I'm sure
Yeah.
somewhere along the way, we all needed someone helped him. someone did something.
Yeah,
You know, somewhere, somehow,
Yeah.
someone was there to push a button, open a door, or whatever.
yeah.
But now, you know, obviously he's got that big studio up there.
But if you see a guy working that hard, like once you recognize a guy, especially when you're a mogul,
Yeah.
you don't start as a mogul.
Right. No.
Nobody starts as a mogul, right?
No, right, yeah.
So when you are working that hard and you meet people and they go, oh, this guy understands the dollar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to open the door and they're going to walk through it with you.
Yeah, if they're smart, you know,
Yeah,
and
like-
it's really if they're smart, and some people have their own vision, they're doing their own thing. But if they're smart and they see that there's a hustle there, and you don't quit, and it's been 2 years,
Yeah.
and 5 years, and 6 years,
Yeah.
they may want to hook their wagon to you.
Of
Because
course.
you know you're going to go somewhere, and I think a lot of times people have connections to make things happen, but they're kind of in their own little world. And over here they have connections in their own little world.
Yeah.
And it's like somehow you guys need to get together because H2O makes water.
Yeah.
You can't make any water without H2O.
Yeah.
So we need 2 parts oxygen, 2 parts hydrogen, and we're going to make water. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, people are just sitting there as oxygen and hydrogen. You
Man,
gotta-
I feel
you
like
know
I
what
should
mean?
have studied for this.
You
Yeah.
should have been,
tonight.
yes. You got to study for these.
Man, time to go
Come
cram.
on,
I'm going to
man.
go in the other room and cram some information.
get-
I'm going to
you-
get on Google and.
You get Sunday and Monday of every week to study for this podcast.
Okay, we just raised the bar. Thank
We
you
just
very
raised
much.
the bar.
Well, I'm glad I could show up and
H2
help.
and O.
Yeah.
But where's the V?
Yeah.
Where's the V?
What's the V?
The vodka.
Oh,
H2OV.
This is a
yes.
sober show, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
get
all right.
I get water wasted. I get water
So,
wasted.
hey, Chris Ballinger logged in. Thanks for joining us, Chris. He was one of our guests a couple weeks ago. And Dave Partridge, Art State. I want to just shout out and let everyone know, hey,
What's up?
thanks
people?
for joining
guys?
us. If you
All
have a
right, thank
question, or you want to call in, we'd be happy to take a phone call. If you got any questions for Joe or Gene or even myself, you know,
Yeah,
we're happy
yeah.
to hear.
Okay, so you are growing up in the shadow of these two larger talents. Not that they're larger talents than you,
Sure.
but they emanate, performance, right?
Yeah.
So like when you walk into a restaurant, and you're looking at your dad, everyone else is looking at your dad.
Yeah.
Do you notice these things, or do you notice that he's a performer, or like how does the world look to you walking around with a guy who's wearing a monocle on stage? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
How does that affect
Yeah.
you as a little kid?
I think by the time we hit the late 70s, early 80s, he had dropped that. He came out with a song called Get Down, which was like during the disco era. So he
Get
sort of,
down,
a little bit different, a little bit different.
Yeah.
But Get Down was sort of that disco
Someone drop
era,
me a
and it
beat.
was a song that he came out with. I believe it was on 20th Century Fox, their record label. But my father was very gracious because we would be at dinner. And he would always take everyone to dinner, and we'd say, thank you, we appreciate it. He's like, don't thank me, thank my fans. Like I'd do anything.
Oh, he
for
got
them.
it.
Yeah,
He
he
understood
understood.
it.
He
Yeah.
understood
He
it.
never abused it.
And
Yeah.
and so with that said, we would be sitting at a table, maybe 10 of us, and he would be sitting over in the corner, and someone would recognize him, and he'd get everyone to move so that he could walk past them, scoot past them to go take a picture in the middle of dinner. He wasn't the type to say, I'm eating, what do you want? Like he would get up and take pictures, so I learned a lot from him. A lot of people say that I even look like him. So I would get that, you look a lot like your dad kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he was just very gracious. He just would, take pictures. And I've met so many entertainers, and some of them not so nice. Some
Yeah.
of them absolutely amazing. Like Smokey Robinson was amazing, and
Yeah.
the late Aretha Franklin was amazing. And
Yeah.
the only person I got kind of struck over was maybe Stevie Wonder. Like there's a picture somewhere out there on the internet where I'm in the background because I missed the picture because I got so excited. His manager was like, you gotta go sit down somewhere. Like kind of, I was really excited to meet Stevie, but they were all very gracious, very open, nice, kind, considerate
I mean,
people.
the Stevie Wonder stories, none of them are about him not being gracious, but there are some
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder stories out there, man.
So, and the funny thing is, I'll tell you, there was when obviously Stevie, his manager had to introduce, okay, Stevie, this is Gene Chandler and blah blah blah, and Stevie was like, oh my goodness, and he gives him this big bear hug, and they kind of like move off somewhere, and they start talking, and I asked my dad about it. He was like, I can't tell you. Like whatever it was that happened with Stevie and him and something happened back in the day, it was a great story that Stevie remembered who my dad was and what happened and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, always gracious, like just great people.
Yeah, I would never ask you, but you've met a couple of celebrity types that weren't having a good day.
I don't know if it's just that or it was their personality. You know what I mean? We all can get grumpy, but I've met celebrities that I have followed forever, bought everything, went to every concert, and I won't mention her name, like everything. And one day I was in Atlantic City, and one of them was performing, and I remember trying to sneak backstage, and I couldn't because his manager was counting the people as they were going by. So I just tried to act natural, and I tried to get back there, and he was like, "Where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I'm with them." He said, "No, you're not there with me." I was like, "Ugh." So he kind of, so he's directing me off. So I'm walking through the Taj Mahal, and this artist, I was walking with a friend of mine, and we were talking, and I was like, I'm really disappointed. I wanted to, go meet him and take a picture. So as I'm walking through the hall, they bumped me, and they said, "Turn around." And I turned around, and he was from Me to You.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh!" And they said, "Get in, take a picture." And they said, "Please don't do that." And to me, that was like, from watching my dad over the years, anytime, anyone, anywhere, and I was like, And so I was young, college, like I just never bought another album,
Prince
never
album.
bought nothing. Well, I met Prince, and listen, I'll tell you the story about meeting Prince, but I never after that bought anything else. I didn't go to concerts, I didn't do anything. I was like, okay, and so I think that's what happens to fans. They're all important, and you do have to have your moments in time and life where it's private or you've got time to yourself. But when you're out there in that public, like that, those are your people.
Well, that's one of the issues, especially if you're coming off stage.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need like 20 minutes to decompress or whatever.
Yeah.
You could be sweating. You could hate the pictures. There's so much that goes on when
Sure.
you come off stage, especially as a musician, because you tend to be a little overworked. Like it's like running a marathon.
Right.
So yeah, there could have been a policy in place that says, hey, no pictures until I go and clean up or whatever. No.
They look cleaned up to me. That's
Yeah.
all I can.
I'm not gonna argue, but I'm just saying, like
They
don't
look
know
cleaned up
the-
to me.
but-
But there was a time that I said I'll tell you the Prince story. So we were in Harlem at the Apollo, and Prince was sitting in the audience, and for probably like the third time we'd gone to this event, Prince was sitting in the audience, but he just happened to be sitting right behind me, and so my wife says, "I want to take a picture with Prince." I said, "I can make that happen. No problem. Don't worry about it." So I said, "I want you to get up, and I want you to go over there and stand." I said, "And when he gets up, I'll get up, and I'll ask him to take a picture." So I'm walking along Prince, and he's got this really big bodyguard, but, I've been around plenty of entertainers. So I said, "Prince, will you take a picture with my wife?" Prince said, "I don't take pictures." Now, as far as I'm concerned, Prince spoke to me.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, right? Even though he turned me down and he said no,
That actually
Prince
counts,
spoke
right?
to me.
That counts.
That
That
counts as a
totally counts,
conversation.
Yeah.
That
Prince
ca-
is off the list.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
not
he
Prince,
heard
not
what you
Prince,
said
not
and
Prince,
responded
not Prince. He
you
was
know.
great. Listen, listen, I completely understood that, and because it was Prince, I was okay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are other entertainers that
So
I
then,
met
and then
that
you
are not
got,
so
and
friendly.
then he goes one way, and you go to your wife, and she
Yeah.
smacks you and says,
Yeah.
"You
She's
talked
like,
to Prince, and
yeah.
I didn't get my picture."
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a quick story.
We
that-
know you got in trouble for that, bro.
I've got a quick story. I had nothing to do with, probably you go, oh, that's nothing. Because, I can't compete with Motown and going into Harlem at the Apollo. I can't compete with that.
Yeah.
But I was filming, I was walking through the Fashion Square Mall here in town.
Yeah.
1990, fall 1990. I'm walking through with a camera. I had a big old camera on my shoulder, and we were just getting out shots. And all of a sudden, MC Hammer comes walking through the courtyard
There you go.
with about 8 guys,
Yeah.
big guys
Yeah,
around him. And of course, we got cameras, and we're walking up, and guys are kind of, fronting them and going, it's
right,
like,
right.
that's yeah. He saw me,
Right.
through his guys. There's like 8 guys, and
He
he
said he
actually
saw me.
saw me,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. And no, I never got a picture or anything like
said
that.
he
I didn't even
saw
get
me.
the camera.
Yeah,
out.
with a beta camera on your
Yeah,
phone.
right. I had the camera and go, and they just all went, not today, buddy, And,
What year was it again?
1990.
1990.
Summer of 90. 'Cause
Wow.
That's when I first moved here, and I worked that, And we're just out. We
was
just happened to
another
be
guy,
out.
right.
And there's MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Not with the big old parachute
yeah.
pants or nothing. He
Right.
wasn't doing that. And,
No, he was just-
Yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
those guys just regular guys, man.
Yeah.
They're just down
He was
to
a
earth
hard-working
regular
guy,
guys.
man.
Oh,
He's still a hard-working
God,
guy,
man.
but he does the other thing
he
now.
went.
I
he
mean,
went-
but he's getting
He
coin,
went
though.
preacher for a little while. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if he's still there or not, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't follow his.
he actually
career,
did
but-
that
Right.
commercial on the
Yeah.
Super Bowl,
The
right?
Super Bowl,
He
Doritos
did-
commercial.
Yeah, he did the Doritos
think it
Oh,
was
commercial.
when
Dorito.
recently?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was
this
Doritos,
past
right?
Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they probably paid him well for that.
Whatever,
Yeah.
or Cheetos, Doritos or Cheetos, something like that. Whatever it was
Something
like
like
you can't
that.
touch this. That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
He
yeah,
had that in
yeah,
there. But it was
yeah.
good though. I mean, but guys like that, as they get older, they realize that the star is fading from what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so you have to have the things that my father has and the other artists have, which are royalties. You have to can protect your royalties. So every 3 months he gets a check from like the Duke of Earl and Backfield in Motion and Rainbow and all these other songs that he's written. And that's one of the reasons I got into the licensing of music, because he gets these checks. He won't let me see them, but he's happy when he goes to the box. So it's
Yeah.
it's a good thing. You got to protect your future.
So, but he owns the full publishing on them.
No, so he's partnership publishing, so they're split publishing. He is one of the writers on it, and one of the other writers passed away. But those things can survive your death. That's the other thing. You're
Right.
leaving something.
99
So-
years, right?
Yeah, well, it's so after the final person's death, and then there's a period of time before it could potentially become public domain. And I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV.
Yeah.
But there's a period of time, and so he's still getting those royalty checks. But I think there may be him and one other person that's still alive. Yeah.
So all right. So it's 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Dad comes through the door. What's he wearing?
So, so here's the thing. So and this is the thing about Dad. I think my father's had the same jean shirt with the two pockets on it since the 70s.
Really?
Like
Oh, wow.
he's just one of those guys.
It's
and
a long sleeve jean
yeah,
shirt,
with the
button
with
down,
the with the
you
button
know?
and that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I own 3 of them.
Yeah.
Boy,
I can't wear them here in
You
Florida.
I am so
Wow.
lucky I didn't come in with that tonight.
It's
Right.
an up north shirt, man. We don't wear them down here.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
and that's
yeah.
his thing,
It's the Canadian tuxedo, is
But,
what it is.
but does it have a little bit of leather where the
Ooh.
piece
Oh,
goes
yeah,
together?
well-
Oh, he's got a little leather on there,
Wow.
man. He's got a little leather on there.
Yeah,
So
he's got a little bling
yeah,
on his.
yeah. But just
So
as
that's
a
what he
stunner.
would come through the door in.
Yeah, yeah.
So he wasn't like, because some of the disco outfits could have been a little funky. You know,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wasn't like weird, like stripes and like bell bottoms. He kept
I
it
think the
kinda
bell
cool.
bottoms was the thing, back
like,
then.
like
Yeah.
almost like this weird, like cranberry red pants.
Right.
You know what I
right.
mean? Like bell
No,
bottoms.
Dad's always been a sharp dresser.
Yeah,
always
you
been
know,
a sharp
like,
dresser.
like all these weird
Yeah,
colors.
it was sharp for that time.
It was sharp
You
for
know,
that time.
yeah, and then still to this day.
and
Yeah,
still to
it
this
was
day,
like-
he.
Yeah.
I think Miles Davis put it in his autobiography. He said he would dress like a broke dick dog.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Like, he was like, you could cut paper on his on his.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
he
that's
was
when
like
they
a
were
Brooks
putting the
Brothers
crease
guy,
in the
you know?
in the jeans.
Yeah, he's like, you could
Yeah.
cut paper on my creases.
Yeah, in the jeans. Yeah. I don't think they do that anymore.
Dress like a broke dick dog.
Yeah. We don't do that
Um,
anymore. But
But I try not to lift too much from Miles. You got to leave it to him.
yeah, right. Exactly. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
so all right, so then
Yeah.
and Dad still goes out to this day at 79, and he'll do like
He'll do
he'll
shows
do
and
like
things
2
like
weeks
that.
a year, like 2 weeks every quarter or something.
I mean, listen, I remember seeing him perform in different places, and as he was getting older, I was always backstage, and I remember looking out and seeing the audience's hair get gray, like just.
Oh, yeah,
like,
you actually
look
saw it
out and it said,
happening.
yeah. I mean, we did a show maybe 8-9 years ago, I believe it was at the Villages, and I just remember looking out. And I
Villages.
was
Wow.
like, so it has changed over the years, and he's.
But you
got
gotta
it.
understand, like, so these kids, I mean, it's like right at the crossover of rock and roll. Like Elvis is already done, like there's
Yeah.
a lot happening. So it's rock and roll technically to the people
Right.
listening.
Right.
At the time, they're teenagers in their cars at
Yes.
17 years old. So to find yourself in the Villages and your dad shows up,
Right.
it brings them all the way back.
Oh, sure it
Because
does.
that's the magic of music, is that it becomes this time capsule.
Yes.
And even in your brain, like the psychology of music is a strange thing.
Yes.
So when if I hear a Led Zeppelin song, I go back to when I was 13.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I hear, Pink Floyd, I hide under
Right.
I hide under the bed, like,
Yeah.
So, but if I hear like Tchaikovsky, I go back to like 7 years old. Like my mom played a lot of Tchaikovsky. So, so when your dad walks into the Villages,
Right.
and all these people, they've done this whole span of life.
Right.
your dad showing up is a huge deal to them, dude. Like,
I think it is.
I think it is.
I think it
dude.
is,
They,
yeah.
they go all the way back to their 1955 Buick.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? In the back seat or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. He made some baby making
Yeah,
love songs.
He was,
Yeah, Rainbow is one of those. I think that it's like they said, the music is the soundtrack to your life.
Yeah.
And so during that time, it is nostalgic for them, and it takes them back to a period of time when things were, in their opinion, simpler. But I noticed that when he would go to different cities, depending on the audience, he would switch up the music. So he
But
wouldn't sing
based
certain
on-
songs based on the demographics, right? So you were saying it was rock and roll at first, and then it became R&B.
Yeah.
Right. So then it was
yes,
like,
yeah.
okay, we got to segment this. This is R&B.
Yes, this audience is going to respond.
Yeah,
If he's playing the
exactly.
Apollo, he's playing a different set.
He's playing a different
than he's
set.
playing at the Villages.
Exactly.
You
Right.
know,
Totally
no
different.
doubt about it.
Right. So
Yeah.
he would integrate. There was a point in which he would record songs, and then he got to an age where he said, okay, Get Down is probably like the last song I need to record, because my audience is not interested in new stuff. They're interested in the old stuff.
Oh, he
so
knew that in the
he
70s?
knew that.
He
He
knew that and said, "Hey,
learned.
man,
80s and 90s, he
this is-
learned. That's enough. I don't need to record anything else.
I'm just going to ride this thing out and
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
and,
savvy
and
guy,
very
huh?
seldom can an artist record something new that really hits the charts and competes. Because, to break a song on the radio today, it's easily $300,000. Like,
Yeah.
it's easily, six figures to get it to that level. So, so when we got into that era of MTV and what space was available, his fans were happy to hear him sing songs like Rockin' Robin and
Yeah.
other rock and roll songs, depending on where he was, and Daddy's Home and things like that.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to hear, okay, we want to hear you do your Duke of Earl and Rainbow and that kind of thing. And when he did Duke of Earl, he would start off clear on the other side of the auditorium. And they would start playing it. So there's been many times I've walked him through the hallway out to the outside. And then what he would do is
To the front of house,
to the
so
front of
that-
the front of the house, right?
Yeah.
And so they would hear this, this doom 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 doo doo doom, and they knew the song was coming, right? But then as he would start
We
coming
don't
through
have
the door,
licensing for that.
they would, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I got you back.
Okay.
But what he would do is, and so then the spotlight would hit him as he's walking through, and people would turn around and they would see that he's in the back of the stadium, which
Yeah.
was the kind of guy he was. He's like, he's on the ground with us. He's walking right by us.
Yeah.
And then he would do and he would do his steps and things, and he would get to the steps, and then the song would begin. And that was just how he would do it. So people were happy to hear the old stuff more than they were looking for anything new.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I mean, the average music career is 10 years anyway, so
If you're lucky.
a good run is 10 years. So
Super lucky to be a Beyonce, or even Lady Gaga has had like amazing hits, and it's like I'm not feeling that anymore.
Yeah.
So to be sustainable, it's a challenging thing.
Well, who's still sustainable? I mean, has Madonna released anything in the last?
Yeah, because Madonna
yeah.
doesn't have to really release anything, although I believe she has.
I think
Madonna
so.
could literally just travel the country and still sell out
Oh,
stadiums.
yeah.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
she's-
And today, that's where the money's at anyway. It's not even in streaming the same. You can get
It's not. It's a different.
It's a whole
all
different
about
ballgame.
touring.
Yeah.
Touring and merch now.
touring and merchandise,
Yeah.
exactly. And for the indie artists that may be listening, really all you need is maybe 1,000 or 2,000 screaming, crazy, fanatical, love everything about you type fans. And this is the same for people who make movies, the same for people who create anything to sell art. You only need a base of 1,000 people who don't realize it, but they bought everything from the keychain to the art itself, to the music, to come see you, to sign an autograph. They don't realize it, but they've spent over a period of a year $100, $200. If they've spent
times that by 1,000.
they just spent
$100,000.
$250,000
Yeah.
with you gross.
So it's interesting
right?
that you bring that up, right? So because the digital media that exists today gives an opportunity for middle class artists, and I don't think
all,
middle
like all
class
ours.
artists understand it. They don't understand that. They think that they need to be Lady Gaga, and they don't. They need
Right.
this tiny little niche audience, and then they don't understand how to market to them, like you said. Like it's a keychain.
Yes.
It's a little tiny musical box that you spin with your finger, and it's
Right.
$15, but it's incredibly unique and well thought out, and it plays the melody to your song, and whatever it is. So.
And you flip it over and it's signed on the back.
Exactly,
like on the
they're all
bottom.
signed,
Yeah.
you know. Like so, it comes up every time. But I'm a jazz head, right? So Brad Mildau is a great jazz pianist, and he's about our age, and he's 50, let's say 55, and he just signed 1,000 copies of his album, you know, on vinyl, like an LP.
Absolutely,
you know,
vinyl's big.
And he, you know, for none such, and you know, which is a great jazz label. And yeah, you know, like he takes every single one, and and then they on social media they put out a picture of him signing all, you know, so you know he touched it, and it's in his house, and he's sitting there with a bottle, and he's signing them all.
And I want one. I want one.
Yeah, and I want one. I don't have a record player, so I'm not buying one. But I was gonna buy one for a friend. But it's interesting, even in the movie business, there are similarities where if you have the right niche, and you're constantly producing product, and you're respectful of your audience, and you're giving them value, and the right price, they will support your career all the way through.
And most importantly, probably more than price, is the fact that they're just fanatical, which is, you know, fan is short for fanatical.
Yes.
So they love everything that you put out. They literally worship what you put out, and they love it.
Until it sucks. Then they don't love you anymore.
But even in that case, they're going, okay, you're entitled to, like, they're more forgiving.
They're more forgiving.
They're more forgiving to you.
Absolutely.
But, you know, because, listen, we've all had missteps. It's just part of life, right? But when you put out stuff that people love, and they love to hear, and they love to see, and they love you, that you remind them of someone or something, they're going to buy from you. Yeah, and that's why people can sell. Like Ariana Grande was here, and she sold $2,000 tickets that she'd come into the suite over at the, whatever the center is now. Is it still Amway?
Yeah.
So the Amway Center, she would come in, and she would meet and greet. Like $2,000.
Oh. There's a VIP experience, huh?
For $2,000, you better beat me with that hair. You know what I mean? Like $2,000. But
you know,
at the end of the day, that to the fanatical people who just didn't want a ticket, but they wanted the experience, they
that's
were
not a
happy to
lot
see
of
her.
money to a lot of people, to be perfectly honest with you, for that kind of experience.
Exactly.
I wouldn't pay it, and I would have to. Tell
I need
my
the
kids
hair beat.
no.
I mean,
But there are people that, you know, there are people that would do that for their daughter or their son or whatever who's into Ariana Grande. They'd be
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
You know.
But that's the point that I'm trying to pass on to the people who are creating content, that you have to create content that people will be happy to pay for, and you're going to have different tiers. Some people will pay the $4.99 just to watch it on Netflix, you know, or whatever the cost is, and some people will spend $2,000 to meet you and greet with you, and you know, and it means nothing to them other than that's an experience they can't get.
Well, it's the same way with all those services that all those launch type services where, you know, you GoFundMe and all these other things, you know.
Yeah,
and when they tell you how to structure the thing, they're like, well, listen, you know, you put in for $1, you get a sticker. You know what I mean? For $10, for $12, you get a sticker and a written note. You
Absolutely.
You get
For
your name in the
$20,
credits.
you get a T-shirt. You know, like for
Right.
$500, you get your name in it, and for $25,000, you get to be in it.
Right.
You know, you get to direct the scene
Absolutely.
or whatever the product is, whatever they're selling.
Yeah.
But so many people, they don't understand that you got to put in a couple of the big ticket items.
Right.
Because there are people with the money.
Absolutely.
You know, they have the money.
Absolutely. And it's broken down just like that. There are some people who have the money and they will spend it with you because you're going to allow my kid to be a walk-on, or you're going to allow me to be a walk-on, and there's no other way I could be a walk-on in a film. I think the biggest mistake that some people make is on the film side is they may tell people they're going to get their money back or that this is an investment, and it's not. It's really challenging to get a film to get to that level. Even Hollywood movies lose money. But the thing that they're looking for is they want the sponsorship. Like, I want that in the film, or I want you to walk by a store that's my store. You shot it here. I want that publicity, or I just want to be part of it. I love the red carpet. Like, those are the things you know you can deliver. You know.
Well, that's the one thing about even those sites that we were just talking about is that you have to deliver.
Right.
Or it's null and void. You don't get the
exactly.
money if you can't deliver.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing like you're saying. And I don't know a lot of filmmakers that are at the position where they have to make offers that they can or can't deliver on.
I understand.
Most of the people I work with are at a different level, at a more of a learning stage, and they're just trying to deliver what their own needs are.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for their immediate cast and crew. But certainly I've spoken with a couple that have, you know, run around and said, hey, man, we'll shoot here if you give us 500. And they get the 500 and they get to shoot there.
Right.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a
and
great
we'll put it in
deal.
the credits. And meanwhile, most people I know, like, they go out to make a film, they're like, does anybody know where I could get into a coffee shop? You know, like.
Right.
And it's like, yo,
Right.
not only can you get a coffee shop,
Yeah.
you can get $500 out of it.
Right,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like,
Yeah, well, listen, they're going to spend it on Google or something like that, and then
Yeah.
and my whole crew is here.
Yeah.
They're going to buy from you coffee, or they're going to buy,
Yeah, yeah.
Danishes. That's what they're here to do.
When I need a location, I would on a few films we might need a bar.
Yeah.
And of course, a bar is a great experience when you're doing a film because you may need to do a premiere, and what better to tell a bar owner that says, "Look, pick a night, pick your worst
Yes.
night of the month,
Yes.
and I will bring 100 people in here,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be drinking and eating and all that stuff." So, and you just say the words. So most anybody with any kind of a venue go, well, what if we, so you think big. Don't think small little 2-person coffee shop
Right.
that you can't do anything for. But if you're thinking a coffee shop that's might be big enough size, maybe you could do a premiere or a mini premiere or something like that, or you can bring 50 to 100
Right,
people
right.
in, and then you've got at least this is your payback. We're going to bring a bunch of people in. We know you're open to, so that might mean half the people are doing their films, so they might need a location. So.
Right.
There's great ways to say, I'm not going to tell somebody that you can put your business in my film and it's going to do, it's bragging rights, it's sharing rights, it's great social media
Yeah.
verbiage.
Yeah.
It lets people know that, hey, this person is part of the community.
It's
They
exciting.
They want, and yeah, it's a little bit of excitement to
Yeah.
it, but it's not advertising.
Yeah.
It's very little advertising unless you're in a Disney film and you want your little product placement kind of popping up there.
Yeah.
Then then you go, oh, I'm going to be on that film,
Right.
and how much is that going to cost and blah blah blah.
But you never know where it's going to go, too. That's the
Yeah.
other thing. So if everyone is pushing at the same time,
Right.
you just never know how many eyeballs are going to see it.
As a filmmaker, you just got to look at your locations, go, how can I think bigger? I was looking for a coffee shop for my last thing that I did, my TV pilot, and it was just not working out. So finally, we just said, well, why don't we do something a little different? So we went to Lake Eola, parked on a park bench with a couple of generic cups of coffee, and there's our coffee. There's our.
Oh, you just did it like
We
that.
just did it out and about,
Yeah.
But I also went to a little shop. I just kind of walked in. I still had the cameras. I was there an hour early, so I walked in this one place and said, hey, would you mind? And then she gave me the owner's number. It was this tiny little coffee shop I just happened upon. And then I walked in, got the number for the person, and said, look, I don't need much. I need one of your little, right out in front. And just park
Yeah,
it there.
like a
and can we
two-top
do-
in
yeah,
front, yeah.
Yeah, just you don't even have to have outside sitting. I just need you to bring one of your inside
Right.
tables, stick it outside, and I'll make sure to get the logo in. And they said, sure, no problem, great. And
Yeah.
so we used it. We added a little extra scene, and that's what we can do. We can add a little things here, add a little things there. And it
How
works
long
out
does
great.
it take to grab 30 seconds worth of footage for them that you can give to them that somebody may be able to edit on their iPhone that becomes a little mini commercial for them on Facebook or something like
Oh,
that? You know
you
what I
know-
mean? Like that's a nice little trade-off too.
When you have control,
Yes.
you can actually kind of go, well, why don't I just kind of get you, shoot some extra footage and
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Me and Ron just had that happen. Actually, we were on a commercial shoot, and somebody who had done the construction was like, "Hey, send me some footage."
Right.
Like,
And,
yeah, no
and
problem.
it, really,
Yeah,
it-
exactly.
it really takes a little bit of nothing to just
It's
kind
like
of go.
nothing. Yeah, you go, all right, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Good old
Yeah.
barter system.
But now some people have more talent in this area than others. Some people, especially with filmmakers, they don't have the talent to walk into. My first film I had, the very first thing I ever shot was in a gas station.
Talking lemonade? No.
Yes.
Lemonade,
The
okay.
very first shot that in the production was inside of a gas station, 7-Eleven kind of place. And then we moved over to a comic book store
Yeah.
on Curry Ford, Living
Yeah.
Dead. And I had secured both of them. But a lot of people, they're not that free with the talking or the asking or the whole thing,
Yeah.
And it turned out that not only were they both very generous with me, I mean, I couldn't turn off the freezers, which sucked in the convenience store because all the
Oh, they were
refrigerators
humming.
are making a
Yes.
ton of noise.
Yeah.
And
They don't understand that,
yeah.
film people, they want to go, can I shut these lights
Right.
off?
Turn
and
that air
Yeah.
conditioner
turn
off.
that AC
yeah,
off.
yeah.
And I'm like, you really have to kind of go.
Is that
you
your
have to
dog
you have to
barking?
use kid gloves.
Yeah, you
Yes,
got to pay
yes.
for that. You,
you
got
got-
to pay for that.
Yeah,
You
gotta-
can't shut things off
yeah.
without paying
You
for
got to
it.
use
Yeah.
kid gloves. Sometimes you just kind of have to bite the bullet. And
You
just
got to
say,
bite the bullet and hope
yeah,
that you get the best.
hope
And then
you
the
get-
other one, and then Living Dead comics, the owner wound up being in the film. Because
Right.
I asked him, I'm like,
Cast
hey
him.
man, like because this
What'd
guy.
you do? You look kind of nice. You work out? Is that what you did? Is that you did that, didn't you?
No, man,
Yeah.
I was completely me, and I
Yeah,
said to
okay.
him, "Listen, man, I can get an actor to try and be you, but there's only
That's
one
the same
you."
thing. That's
There's
the same.
only
Yeah.
one
Oh,
you.
there's only one you.
You
You,
know,
look
Oh,
amazing.
Look at you,
Like-
man.
See, you work out.
Is it?
I mean, he's
Yeah.
like the perfect comic book store
Yeah.
owner. I'm like, oh my god,
Because he's a
like,
comic book store owner.
like nobody. I'm,
Did,
Right.
did you use "You complete me"?
Oh no, that's
No, I'm just kidding.
I tell you what, though, shooting in there completed me because
Yeah.
it's my
Really?
favorite footage of the whole movie.
Wow.
It just, it just looks gorgeous because
Yeah.
it's a comic book store. There's knickknacks and little things in every
Wow.
corner of the place. Like, every single thing had a little figurine and a this and a that and things hanging from the ceiling. And I mean, it was incredible to shoot in the place and the colors are popping. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved it.
So, what do you like to shoot? What kind of films are you into? Like, if you ever just
Oh, as
comedy,
far as, like,
horror?
genre?
Yeah, what do you prefer?
You said before you like kids having kids films. You like directing kids.
Well, I direct kids because I have kids and I need to spend as much time with them as possible
and
because
that's
smart.
free labor.
yeah, there's free labor, but
Cats
you know,
out the
I
back.
pay my children to be in my
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
I just want to
Gummy
put that
bears?
out there. No, cold hard cash.
Oh,
One
okay.
of my kids, my 8-year-old, is a financier, so
There you go,
and
smart
he won't
kid.
let it go.
There you go.
But I do enjoy working with kids, but it
Yeah.
also makes it a family thing because I'll write and direct and
Right.
produce, and my wife will edit, and I'll edit with her, and my kids are in the film. So if it was just me off on my own, saying like, "Hey, see you later," I'm going to dedicate 110% of myself for the next 3 months to create 9 minutes of media, you
Right.
know, and you guys all have to suffer. They're not going to dig that.
Gotcha.
That's going to be a no-go.
Gotcha.
So it's much easier for me to just envelop the entire family unit as a team and get it done. It won't always be that way.
So your wife says he likes blow 'em up films.
I like action
Oh,
films. So
action.
before I had children, I loved dramas and foreign films and really deep stuff and horror. And after children, I can't watch any drama. I can't watch any horror.
We're all the right
And-
age. I'm gonna throw something out there. And I'll try to do it in character. Shoot the glass.
What is that from?
Come on now, the original blow 'em up film, Die Hard.
Oh, Die Hard. Man.
Shoot the
I
glass.
almost watched that with my kids recently.
I couldn't even do the
That's
character.
what's
there.
his name?
Yeah.
So now I like. I hate to say this, but
Is
I
that
like.
Jeremy Irons?
No.
No, he just died though last year. The
Yes,
guy
he
who did
did,
it.
yes.
He was also.
He was
he was Snape in
Snape in Harry Potter.
in Harry Potter. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
We
But
all know.
I
just
like
can't think of his
mindless
name.
action films now.
Really?
I'm a
Car
yeah,
scene chase kind
You
of
know
thing?
what?
Or
Just I like a lot of sci-fi though, but I need it to be mindless.
Okay.
You know,
I don't know, it was last month. I caught myself watching hopefully the last installment of Rambo.
Oh, I didn't see
Last Blood.
Yeah.
They said last. I'm hoping it's
Yeah,
last.
let's hope,
Or it's
yeah.
the next to Last Blood.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh my
And
God.
what'd you think?
It was insanely violent.
Yeah.
In fact, there's just a moment, not even the 80s killing spree. It's almost like he's kind of crossed between Rambo, Jason, Freddy.
This
and all
last
this,
one?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
last one, which was
Yeah.
last year or whenever it was
No, it was
released
it was
last
this year. I
Yeah.
think it was. Yeah.
And it was like a cross between all these people. He went
Yeah.
batshit crazy, and
he did.
it was like, I felt awkward, and we've all seen the
Yes.
Stallone shoot 'em up, whatever.
Well, the first one
movies.
is great.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna go with the first one was great.
Yeah.
You know,
It was
but this
unexpected
last
too.
one
what he
Yeah.
was gonna do.
was uncomfortably
Violent.
violent.
Yeah.
Like
Kinda
worse than Tarantino. Like
worse
more...
than I mean, it was like they bitch slapped everybody. You know,
So,
that's
let me ask
maybe
you
a
this,
wrong preference,
you know, because
but,
we're in
you
this
know.
post George Floyd, you know, political environment with all this going on. What did you think of it politically? Like, what did you think of the whole? Because I've read reviews about it, and some people thought it was great, and blah blah blah, and some people were like, why are Mexican people always portrayed in this way? so did any of that come into your head? You know, where you looked at it and said,
First, the story was completely weak. It was just
It
how
was
do we-
weak,
yeah,
and it was
They-
cliched.
They introduced him as a I don't know. It was a revenge thing.
yeah. They
you
take his
know.
daughter or something across the
or his
border.
I think
someone-
adopted daughter across
Yeah.
the border, put her into slavery,
And it's bad
killed
Mexican
her.
people, right?
and
Like
now
bad brown
he's-
people.
Not only did he go down in there and tried to, and then he invited them back to his house.
And then
said-
the
and
white man,
finished them
one
off,
white man
you know,
kills
yeah.
every brown man.
Sorry for the
that-
spoiler,
that shows
folks.
up.
If you're watching
Yeah.
this, Desiree Dosher.
Oh, that's yes.
She said
Hey,
Alan
Des.
Rickman. She gets the
Yes.
the gold star
Alan
for
Rickman.
the having the right name here.
Yes.
Thanks for that.
Hello, Des. I love
but
you.
Yeah, I just thought there was really no story, and it was just, you know, just so much. Just okay, we get it. You know how to cut heads off, and you know, and it was just way more than it needed to be. If they spent just a fraction more time on the story, let's get our writer to take another look at this, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't know.
It just was empty
yeah.
violence.
Yeah, it was just. It
Yeah,
was,
that's
it
why I
was,
prefer
It was
sci-fi.
empty. It was
It's
a lot
less
incredible
violent.
violence, but it was just empty.
Yeah.
So
you
what
know.
sci-fi movie could you watch over and over and over again?
Star Wars.
Oh, I'm not a big guy. The only movie, and we've spoken about this before. The only thing that I'll leave on is Jaws.
Oh,
Yeah, Jaws I'll leave on.
Yeah.
Star Wars I've seen a couple of times, the first one, but I won't even watch the second and the third over and over.
You haven't seen it in 3D?
No. I'm not into 3D.
HD. I mean, there's so many been reduxes of
Yeah.
the Star
Yeah.
Wars,
Yeah.
the first three
But I don't know
movies.
if I
so.
need to. I'm not a guy that watches the same film over and over again. Give me, especially if you're into sci-fi, because you know it's you constantly looking for this new creative burst of imagination that comes forth, and you're like, wow, that's incredible, you know.
I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but I like when my memory slips a little bit and I watch a film from 20 years ago and I kind of
you
forgot how
rewatch it?
Yeah, rewatch it from 20 years ago. It feels new to me.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
You know, something like that. But no,
Good
I
for
can't
you.
watch the same thing over. and over.
Without
Yeah, I don't
without
watch it over
dipping
and over
into
again.
the Star Wars stuff, it's kind of hard to kind of find some Close Encounters. Love Close Encounters.
I didn't get Close Encounters. It
Oh,
didn't do it for me at
God.
all.
Really?
No.
Oh, love that. That's a favorite for me. But you know, it dips back into Spielberg and all
Yeah,
of his,
yeah.
You know, but that was great. I love Dreyfuss in that. Dreyfuss.
I love
just-
Dreyfuss in it. And,
Dreyfuss
you know,
because
there's
he
some
came off
scenes
of
that are amazing.
Jaws, and
Yeah.
he was great in Jaws.
Yes.
He was really good in.
You know,
in
I just saw him in a preview for a film with Chevy Chase, and I'm like, damn, why'd you gotta work with
right.
Chevy Chase? Because I ain't watching that.
And the funny thing is,
Oh,
funny
Chevy,
thing
you're not a
is,
big fan
is
of
that
Chevy?
I'm
film,
not a big fan of
that
Chevy.
film is about one of those two is a comedian, and the other one was his agent. Now
Yes.
you would think it would be Chevy Chase was the comedian.
No, they switch it.
No, they switch roles, and now
Yeah.
Dreyfuss is the comedian, and Chevy's taking him
And
on
Chevy's
the road.
the manager,
on
yeah.
the road. So I thought, okay, kind of interesting.
It's probably a
but
very good film. It's probably
Yeah.
hysterical. Like Funny Farm was a great film with Chevy Chase.
That was probably his last.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just.
oh,
not a
he
fan
did
of
that.
guy.
He did
You
the
love him?
Invisible
My
Man.
favorite, of course, we used to watch it on long trips, National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, see, I don't
yeah.
get that kind of humor. It's just
Yeah,
not
that
funny
stuff
to
was
me.
Oh,
just
really?
funny to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
Russ cracked open
Christmas
that beer, and he was like,
Vacation.
"Take your time," and Russ
Yeah.
cracks open the beer and drinks that thing faster than his dad. That stuff just had us tickled,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, none of that
was
works for me.
great.
The other one,
Yeah.
the plane
This-
one with Leslie Nielsen, none of that stuff works for me, man.
Oh,
No?
Airplane.
So you're-
Airplane, I just.
Oh,
I'm
it's
what is this?
hilarious.
What was
Yeah.
that?
Any of it.
Was that the Farrelly? No, that wasn't the Farrellys. That was another group of brothers that did a lot of those movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like
yeah.
Monty Python. I like
Ah.
other stuff that's silly to some degree, but
Right.
it's artistically different, you know. Like
I
don't know.
laughed so hard when I was a little kid that my mom had to pull me away from the television because I used to watch the Three Stooges.
Oh,
Yeah,
And
well,
I
I grew
laughed
up
till
on
I got a
that.
stomach cramp.
Yeah.
So that was kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And then, of course, as I got older, I don't know if I got warped or twisted, but I used to watch Benny Hill. And that was funny.
I used
so,
to watch
you know,
Benny Hill a little bit.
Yeah.
Benny Hill was
You
a
know?
little over the top.
It was way over the
Actually,
top.
there's a guy who works. There's a guy here in town that
Yeah.
runs an acting school who used to work on the Benny Hill show.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I auditioned
Wow.
for him once for something, and he told me the backstory and whatnot. He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, Benny Hill I used to watch a little bit of. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I just love all kinds of stuff. I mean, I couldn't sit and watch the same. Like, I don't want to laugh all the time. Sometimes I want to hear, like, you know, biopic, or I want to hear the documentary of what happened to someone. But horror films are great. Some people can't watch it. I love watching horror films and really just about anything, man. Because I'm more
Horror
curious in
doesn't
how
do
they're
it for
made.
me, you know?
Oh,
Horror-
so you don't
Horror
jump?
used to
There's
do it
nothing.
for
I'm
me.
not. I've seen them. You know, I've seen all the '80s genre stuff, the
Yeah.
Freddy and Jason and all that stuff. But then things got really bad, and they're making people cut their arms off, and you know, like
Oh, like Saw or
and stuff
something like that.
I
Yeah.
never just like, okay, I'm gonna put you in a room chained up, and here's a saw.
I
That
think
clearly won't
yeah,
cut the chain, so here you
something
go.
happened in horror where it became human against human. I preferred my horror to be supernatural or demonish, or you know, it would come from another realm of existence into the human realm. When it's human against human, that's not horror.
Right.
I don't know what that is, but I don't get it, and I don't watch it.
So you didn't see Us
No, I
by
didn't
Jordan
see
Peele?
Us. I didn't see that.
Yeah, Jordan
How
Peele
about
created
Killer
a great
Clown?
movie when he created
Killer
Us.
Clowns.
It was
Yeah,
like
everybody loves it,
the
but I didn't
twins,
see it.
like the twin of them, and Chase. I
I
don't
don't
want to
know the
spoil it for
story at
anyone,
all.
but basically, it's like they're sort of doppelbangers. I think they call them.
Doppelganger.
Doppelgangers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they call them doppelgangers. So basically, they were kind of chasing each other in a sense. So yeah, Jordan Peele made a great movie with Us.
Well, what's the other one where you're allowed to kill people for 24 hours or something, and you get away with it?
oh, like a lottery kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
What's that
I
called?
remember
Like
that.
Universal
I-
puts it
yeah.
in their street
Yeah.
part. I forget the names of those
Yeah.
films, but I can't watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't. It's just to me, it's too.
No,
ugh.
I'm a big fan. I like suspense. I like the hairs on the back of my neck, but just waiting for someone to get their head cut off does not do it for me. But like, if you think M. Night Shyamalan did Signs.
Yeah, well,
Oh
I just
my
watched
God!
that.
Or
recently.
or the I See Dead People.
Yeah, Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when that kid's walking down the hall and then something passes, obviously behind them, but right in front of the camera, my hairs just go.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's a
and-
different kind of
and
horror.
I love that kind of. So if I was to ever do a horror, it would be more implied because you have more fun, like the shark in Jaws.
Right.
I
Yeah.
hear the music.
You know something's coming.
And you never see the shark because
Right.
obviously it was broken. But you know, but you loved all that stuff because it really kind of go. Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna? I'd get up out of my chair. I'd walk around. I'd walk from 10 feet away because if the TV's smaller, it's less scary. You know, than when it's
Right.
really big. So.
Yeah. And then
but-
you have to cleanse your soul with like your mental palate with like a Disney film. when
Yeah,
it's over. You
yeah.
got to go sit and watch something.
Yeah.
I think if,
something
like-
without death in it, like Lion King or something like
Yeah.
that.
I've
you
watched
know.
a couple because my
Bambi?
something
I don't know.
without- yeah.
Bambi,
They
Lion
have no
King,
death.
just something
Yeah,
without
Bambi.
death in
Yeah,
it. You know,
yeah,
Bambi. You
yeah.
know.
Snow White.
Or at least get the death away really quick.
Yeah,
Get it done in
kill
the beginning.
mama.
Right in the beginning, first
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Kill-
But, my young financier, he was into horror for a hot minute.
Right.
So we watched Aliens, the first Aliens, and the kid was 7.
Oh.
And
Some of that,
he didn't have a
I was
problem in
okay
the
with a
world.
couple of the Alien movies. You
yeah,
know,
he
you know.
didn't care at all. It didn't bother him one bit. And then we watched a couple of others, and now he won't watch a horror film. Now he's 8, and he's like, no way, no horror.
Yeah. Some people won't.
You
got
burned
him.
him on
I
that.
got
one,
him
huh?
somewhere. Something scared the hell out of him.
But
and-
Predator versus Alien was good.
Yeah, those were.
You know, I
yeah,
just
it was
saw
kind of
one of
fun.
those recently,
Yeah,
and I
you
loved
guys-
it.
Yeah.
I loved it, man. They were
Did-
like,
now, didn't Freddy versus Jason? Wasn't there
Yeah,
a Freddy versus Jason one?
I
time?
Predator
never saw
versus
that.
Jason.
I
or
think
something.
that was 90s or late
Yeah.
90s or
yeah.
something like that.
well, there's 2 Alien versus Predators as well.
Right.
I didn't see the first
one.
one.
Has
I s-
Shania Lathan in it.
Yeah, the most recent one I saw, it's like in Antarctica, and they're down in like some pyramid under the
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, actually.
So
I
now
loved it.
the first Predator was
Mindless
actually
action. That's
pretty
mindless
good.
action to me.
Right. Yes.
You know.
Exactly. I get it.
You know, first Predator was good because it was sci-fi and it was still it was Schwarzenegger. You know,
Yeah.
it was Arnold, and he had Apollo Creed. He had
Right.
you know,
Carl
and
Weathers.
yeah, Carl Weathers, and then he had Jesse Ventura and all
Right.
these great actors that were just you know it's gonna be fun. You know, you had all these great actors, and then you had Arnold killing a predator, alien, whatever. And so that was great. And then they kind of, unfortunately, they kept reduxing it. You know, what did they do the second time? They had Danny Glover fighting,
Right.
fighting the same predator and stuff like that.
It's like a Rocky movie.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, it's
always coming
always
back.
First
And then-
Rocky movie again,
Yeah.
man. Great movie.
Hey.
Yeah.
Co-
Oh, I'll
Philadelphia.
watch
Great
it.
movie.
I'll watch Rocky any day.
All
The
of them?
first one?
Oh, the first
So
one.
did you? I watched it recently, maybe in the last year, and I was shocked at how dark it really is.
Yeah.
It's a dark film, and it was shot in a dark time. It was shot in the 70s.
Sure.
And, you know,
76,
their
something like that?
lifestyle, everything. When was the last time you saw the original Rocky?
A month ago.
It is. Oh, a month ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
about a
that
month
quick,
ago.
Did, did you see
I
it
don't
as
watch
a-
much television, but I did see it sort of in passing. But obviously I remember it, and it was shot in the city where I'm from, which is Philadelphia.
Yeah, but it's dark.
Yeah.
It is dark, man. Like
Yeah.
they're not. It's not. I don't know, man. When I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember being alive at that time, you
Right.
know, and like,
Right.
and things feeling like that, and people not
Yeah.
being able to express themselves, and all the things that we all are better at now.
Right.
About human interaction, like you look at the collapse of communication in the film, you're like, and everything's collapsed. Everything is just dark
Right.
and dingy, and you're like, holy cow, man, this thing is horrible.
But I like I like movies where people triumph at the end. Or
He
or
loses.
and he loses at the end.
No,
Absolutely.
no,
loses.
he won the
but if you
audience.
but if you
That was-
right,
he-
exactly.
He lost the fight, won the
On
audience.
the audience
you know?
and Philadelphia. This and then there's this statue that's on the art museum steps where he would run up and then throw his arms up. They at one point they had that statue at the top of those steps.
Yeah.
And you could run up the steps like Rocky. Everybody who's ever been there has at some
It's a
point
big
if you
film.
could,
That was
there
the
is a
first
big
film
film.
they employed
I
Steadicam.
love
it. I mean,
that was
listen,
the first
really?
film invented. The guy who invented Steadicam actually
He did
that
it
was
for
the
that film?
first film. Yes, that's
Yeah.
that's what's treated with that little bit of technology.
Had he invented it first, and then they applied it to the
I'm
film?
sure he had
or-
been inventing it. I don't think it just kind of came out,
Yeah.
but I don't know the whole story. But I know that was like the first big film for that
Wow.
Steadicam to make an appearance.
And I beg your pardon, Rocky did win. He caught that chicken. Do you remember he was
Caught the
chasing?
chicken.
He was chasing the chicken, and he.
He won, man. He won.
You're gonna
Yeah.
You're
But,
gonna
but hold
I'm
on
gonna
though.
give it
Do
to
you
you.
remember?
You're
do you
gonna
remember?
crap thunder and
Yeah,
whatever.
right. So that's Burgess Meredith,
Yeah,
right?
he was great.
So do you remember the show that Burgess Meredith was in and the character that he played? Wait, think back because you'll see it when I say it if you don't remember it.
Go ahead.
you
What
mean-
was it?
So he was on the original Batman. He was the Penguin.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the
yeah.
Penguin. So you're like, wait a minute.
And
he
the
looks like
Joker
the
was George Romero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a little bit of trivia.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
remember all that stuff.
Is that
when
still
I was
on
a kid.
TV? You can still watch the original '60s Batman
Oh, you
TV
can?
series.
with
Yeah,
Adam West.
yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, yeah.
What channel is that?
Um,
Is that with your rabbit ears again?
No. Well,
Digital.
you know, no. It might even be on either Netflix or Amazon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or YouTube. Yeah.
I try and get my kids to watch those things, but they
It's
look at
great.
it for
I
a
love the
minute,
movie that
and
they
then you're
made.
Like, are you
The-
kidding? Like this is horrible.
That
Right, because they're
Adam-
used to seeing the latest
Yeah, they're
Batman and
used to- yeah,
Superman and
yeah.
that kind of thing.
That Adam
Yeah.
West Batman, they made that full feature movie.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh,
really?
they came out with a feature probably at the end of the TV series. They came out with a full length movie
With Adam West?
it was the same
But it was a
tour,
feature.
same group, but it was an actual feature length. And it was like
Wow.
an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Wow.
whatever. But and it was the same thing, just a long movie version of that.
Yeah,
you
of
know.
whatever there.
Yeah, so
I remember there was a couple of shows like Mr. T was cool. That whatever show that was, Mr. T.
Well,
was
that
so
was
the
good.
Rocky
18th. The
three.
18th. No,
That
you're
was-
talking about
that
the,
was also Rocky
he was in
3.
Rocky. Yeah,
That
3
was
or
a great
4.
yes,
Yeah.
but I remember watching that
Mr. T.
television show
18,
and like
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica. So then like now as an
Oh,
adult,
goodness.
I go and I look, because Battlestar Galactica, like they kept this thing going.
Well, no, they
There's, like,
they brought
multiple-
it back, and then there's
Like,
been
a couple of them.
well, yeah, they started kind of like Star Trek. They started. They did a series, and then they did another one.
Yeah.
There's been like 2 or
It's like
3,
spin-offs,
and then in
yeah.
the middle there's been a movie,
Yeah.
Maybe it was a sign. I don't know if it was a SIFI.
Yeah.
Thing, but I noticed that because I started looking. I'm going, okay. I remember the original ones with Lorne Green. Remember Lorne Green,
Yes,
Battlestar
yes.
Galactica.
From Bonanza.
Dirk Benedict, which was part of the A Team.
Okay. Yes.
You know, he was
Yeah.
face in the A Team, and then another guy who just, he's actually made. These guys have made appearances later on, just recently in life, and showing up in other series, but. Yeah, Battlestar Galactica, and then it was dead silent for a good 20 years, and then probably right around 2000, it started making its appearance. And I think, was it Katie Sackhoff? I think that was her big kind of insertion into the thing. I think she was part of that new Battlestar Galactica, and then I think she's been the star.
Well, I think there's even been more than one series for Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and I think kind of like Star Trek and kind of like their, I think they've kind of, it became Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek kind of thing.
Whatever,
and they
yeah,
do
spin-offs.
something to thread everything together because it's
Yeah.
all part of the same similar timelines. But I think, but Battlestar Galactica, yeah, I've tried to figure out how do I watch these in order? Which comes first?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I can't figure it out.
I went and I looked, and then I also looked at Stargate. So the original Stargate came out as a movie,
Right.
And then they blew out a bunch of
I just
series
watched
on
that on
one.
Amazon like a week
With
ago.
the first
Stargate,
movie.
Yes.
So then
yes.
what happened to me was, so I'm sitting home a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm out of things to watch because
Yeah.
we've been watching stuff too long now, right?
Right, yes.
So and I'm back to work, and I'm still out of things to watch. So I go to watch I see like Stargate, and there's a couple of different series that they've
Right.
done on Stargate.
Yeah.
So I put one on, and sure enough, the 8-year-old comes in, and he sits down. He watches maybe 10 minutes. He goes, "Daddy, this is terrible."
Well, okay, so
And it's new. It's only a couple
Right,
of years old.
right.
But, he's like, "Oh, this is terrible writing." And off he goes. Like,
so after the movie,
Get outta here, you little
He's
diva.
got good
Go
taste.
count your money.
Yeah, right.
after Stargate, which had Kurt Russell playing the badass, the military guy, Richard Dean Anderson, MacGyver, took over. So after
Yes.
the movie in Stargate, which was probably early 90s, and then somewhere in the 90s when they made a TV series, then it was Richard Dean Anderson and
Yeah.
then a bunch of people you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then they turned into Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis.
That's what I was watching,
They made 2 or
Atlantis
3.
sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
Stargate Atlantis.
I saw
and-
like 1 or 2
and-
episodes and just
yeah.
gave up. I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, this is kind of
But
the
the
8-year-old's right.
original-
This is
Yeah.
horrible."
But the TV series with Richard Dean Anderson was actually kind of the first off the gate
Yes.
from the thing, which is wasn't bad, And you had MacGyver. I mean, who
What's
doesn't
this
love
new?
MacGyver,
There's a couple of things coming out. So the new Dune is coming out. If like you're into sci-fi, you're kind of
Dune?
waiting for
Wow.
Dune, right?
Yeah.
And now Apple TV put a production together for another great sci-fi novelist. They're trying to make a movie of it. I think it's called Frontier or something. And it's going to compete against Dune, and it looks
Right.
pretty good. So. It's very difficult in the sci-fi world. The books are great. Lots of people know great sci-fi books, but they never seem to translate well onto film.
Oh,
or
really?
into TV.
Um,
They're too
If you've
far-flung.
ever read, as a book, if you've ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yes.
and that translated incredibly well at it came out 15 years ago. It was really they've had a lot of reduxes with
Yeah.
TV series spin-offs since the
Yeah,
70s
yeah.
that they originally adapted it. But you read the book and it's a hard read because they're inventing this entire
It's bizarre.
bizarre thing.
Yeah.
And the way they're delivering it, it's got that English humor. It's very dry, but it's you have to think about it and you start laughing. But the Hitchhiker's Guide with I can't think, it was from the latest Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, that character, can't think of his name, but he was in Hitchhiker's Guide, and obviously,
Bilbo?
no.
Bilbo Baggins.
No.
Isn't it Bilbo
Was it?
Baggins?
Yeah,
Or is it
actually, I think he did
Baggins?
play Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, the English guy.
He played in the second trilogy, not the
Yes,
first
yes.
trilogy. So, but he played the character in Hitchhiker's Guide, and I got to tell you, you could only do that with modern technology to make, and to do that stuff. You couldn't have done that film properly in the 70s and 80s because technology just did not hold water.
No.
You know, did not hold water. You couldn't do a sci-fi back then like you can do it now. So I was waiting. When I heard Hitchhiker's Guide, I was going, oh my God, they're actually going to do a film of that.
Yeah.
And I did not, you know, Alan Rickman played the voice of a robot
Okay.
that was severely depressed. I mean, just great stuff. That was probably one of my more recent likes in sci-fi because it just, you know, it was great, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Stargate, yes. Arlene logs in and says James Spader and Stargate. You know, we love that. Blacklist, James Spader. So then now there's a James Spader thing.
Who? I don't know if I know James Spader.
James Spader, he was one of the original Brat Pack.
Oh,
James
really?
Spader, he was Pretty in Pink. He played the blonde guy who used the James Spader. How do you know?
Oh, he's
James
the
Spader?
guy on the cover with Molly Ringwald he's the
No,
no.
that's a different guy.
No, James Spader played kind
yeah
of.
his name was like McCarthy or something.
Yeah.
No,
something like-
Andrew McCarthy played
Andrew
the rich
McCarthy.
guy.
Yeah. Who's
The
James
Molly.
Spader? Oh,
Andrew,
James Spader.
Molly and Ducky. Remember Ducky, who was the goofball best friend that was in love with her, and then James Spader played the cool kid that was trying to keep his buddy away from Molly Ringwald.
Yeah, he was the
James
one.
Spader. How do you know?
Yeah,
know
no, I know
James
James Spader.
Okay.
He was also in Less Than Zero.
Less Than
he's
Zero,
the drug dealer in
yes,
Less Than
yes,
Zero.
Yes.
Yeah,
Less
he
Than
he just
Zero.
did he's got
He
another
did
show now.
Blacklist TV, and that's been going for a while. Blacklist.
And then in the
Yeah.
last one, he was with what's his name from Star Trek? They were lawyers in Chicago. What was that one? That was on TV a couple of years ago. He was actually good in that one.
Yeah.
Who's
The lawyer show.
yeah.
It wasn't Ally McBeal.
It was a good show though, actually.
Yeah, and him and
Something
it,
Street,
and
maybe.
it was William Shatner, and they'd
William
have a little
Shatner and him.
conversation at the end.
At
yes.
the end, they'd always smoke a big fat
Yeah.
cigar and have some
On the
whiskey
rooftop kind of
on
thing,
the
yeah,
rooftop and
yeah.
discuss about.
That was the last time I really liked James Spader because he was still. He also did a film called The Secretary, and James Spader played, and it was a younger James Spader from about 20 years, probably 20 years ago, and it was called Secretary, and he played he played a lawyer who hired a temp, and the temp was can't think of her, you know her name, and it turned into this whole. He was the masochist in this relationship with the secretary, so she was making him like spank her and stuff like that, and it was like really just kind of odd, the whole thing.
Oh, really?
So it was called Secretary, and it was James Spader, and he played this creepy lawyer who kept.
He does creepy really well.
He does creepy very well, and
And
yeah.
there were spankings.
You know
And
what
there
this,
was-
this
there
show
was-
ought to be
he
called
got
like
to spank
old
his
guys,
secretary.
almost old guys who don't remember anything.
No, because we really are like.
We don't
So
remember
what was the
names.
name of that? We
Yeah.
need. Yeah,
we really don't
Where's the
remember much.
producer that's looking everything up and whispering it in our ear, or is that
Yeah, we
online?
need a
Because
Jamie.
Arlene got one of them, right?
Arlene got us on the blacklist, so,
So,
thanks a lot, Arlene.
Arlene was
you
on your
know.
show last week. Is that the same Arlene?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
that's her
that was
last
great.
week,
She
so.
did a great job. She's really,
Arlene's-
she's
you know,
a
the funny
really
thing about
down to earth
Arlene,
person.
I guess she's watching. You
Yeah.
know, people coming into that show, people were like, "Oh, it's going to be fireworks," like.
Right.
But the reality is that she's an intelligent woman with a lot to say.
Oh,
About,
yes.
and I enjoyed it tremendously. But yeah, I'm glad that I didn't know Arlene when I was running hard because we'd have gotten into a lot of trouble
Oh,
together, man.
yeah.
She could take fun to a great
Yes.
level, So
She's a lot of fun.
Arlene,
Great
she's
person.
a hoot.
she also took the conversation to a great level, which is what this show is
Okay.
about.
Yeah, right. Yes. No, that's good though.
We're at about 8:17. We're about an hour and 17 minutes in. We've had some people chatting in, and I would really like to invite any questions because I'm going to put I don't know, 10 minutes or so kind of countdown.
A
unless
wrap-up.
unless we're done talking. But
So hold on, yeah. Let's just wrap up with so this. We do a lot of film talking here. We do a lot of music talking here.
Yeah.
But you're a copyright. So if I need rights to music,
yeah.
I have to go through a person like yourself.
No, there's a lot of places you can go online.
No, I know,
to
but
search.
let's talk. Tell
no, so
people something about what it means.
so Yeah, the
because
quick-
we learned about your father, right? So your father
Right.
is 79 years old.
Yeah.
And he looks forward to going to the mailbox and getting and
Every
it's
3
probably
months.
not $10,000 every 3 weeks, but it's
Yeah,
money, right? Like
it's more
he
than
gets
that.
money.
It's more
you
than
know.
that because they've synced it in commercials, and so
Yeah.
just a little
Yes.
bit about like they did the Dijonage commercial.
Okay, yeah.
Dijonage.
What about
Okay,
that?
yeah,
yeah.
What about
Duke
the
of
sandwich,
Oil.
The sandwich shop
Duke of
called,
Oil.
Yeah, they did a Duke. So there's an oil
What
company.
about the sandwich shop that's like the Duke of something? It was a spinoff of the name, but there's a sandwich shop at Disney. Really great sandwich
It might
shop.
be Duke of Earl.
Yeah, I think it's Duke of
No,
Earl.
that's
Sa-
Earl
yeah.
of Sandwich. That's
Earl
not.
of Sandwich.
No,
Sandwich.
we get no royalties on that.
You don't get
Okay.
royalties,
No,
but
no.
you get upset with them,
No,
right?
yeah.
I'm sure a cease and
But
desist
Earl of
went out.
Sandwich, no, there's so we don't get any royalties off of that. But
Okay.
but the
That's
quick
where I was
fast
kinda connecting.
history behind myself is that I used to manage artists. That was the thing I loved to do. I would tell them what to wear, what songs they were going to sing, when it was time to be in the studio, who they were going to open for. They opened for groups that back in the '90s like High Five, Small Change, Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, Brian McKnight. So so I would tell them what to do, but artists would quit. They just decided they didn't want to do it anymore. They want to start a family, and there was nothing wrong with all those things. I just couldn't get my money back. And so a buddy of mine who wrote for Charlie Wilson, he said to me, "You should really consider managing music. It doesn't quit. It doesn't get sick. It doesn't, destroy the hotel room. That kind of thing." I was like, "That's a good thing." And so
Managing the publishing rights.
So managing the music itself.
Yes.
So being a publisher or being a sync agent, which means that if you have a film and you come to me and you're looking to get music cleared for that film, I can go to indie artists that are writing songs and help put money in their pocket to get those songs cleared. I can take care of all the paperwork and all the contracts and keep those contracts on file in case anything comes up. And I have a team that I work with, and so they do those kinds of things. And so getting music placed for that purpose is a big part of what I do. But an even bigger part is more of the micro licensing. So there's a lot of artists out there that make music that will never make it into a film.
Yeah.
So micro licensing is the 30-second or 60-second music, no vocals, just simply the music that they've made,
beat,
the
the
beat or the
background, yeah.
creation, the violins, something that's real catchy. And it may never make it in a film, but it's perfect for the skateboard, the bulldog on the skateboard kind of thing, or the GoPro video that someone made surfing.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And that same song could probably sell for 30 seconds, may sell for $8, and 1,000 people may buy it a year to use it for their video. So you just grossed $8,000 on one piece of music. So
I've always noticed that when being a studio owner, I've had a lot of independent artists come through here, doing music videos, whatnot, and I always tell them, look, we're cutting this, but also, do you have just just without vocals? Can you just give me the instrumental version of this song, so that we can do something with it? And if all of a sudden we wanted to break in a dialogue in the middle and create a little movie out of it, we can actually break out of the song, keep the instrumental going, and then we can add some dialogue. And we've done that before. But I've always had to ask them, when you're in the studio, can you just kind of pull out the vocals and just burn another track? Once you've got your final mix down, then just take out the.
So they may not own the rights to do that, depending on who created it.
Yeah, it depends on who's creating it. It depends on where the studio is and who's paying the bill.
Well, it's not only that. So you have different parts. You have the producer who created the music. You have the songwriter who wrote the song. And so sometimes you can't make one move without the other.
Speaking of that, I'm on YouTube. One of my favorite channels on YouTube is Postmodern Jukebox. Has anyone ever heard of that?
Yeah.
These are they do vintage versions of songs. Like one of the first ones I ever heard was It's All About That Bass.
Yes.
Yeah. And
the clown.
And they turn the music into postmodern. They turned it into 30s and 40s, that lounge singer with the crazy microphone that changes it. And they redo a song from something modern. So they take a new song and cut it with old vintage, different tunes, different everything.
Right.
And I'm looking at here and I go, well, this video's got $64 million views.
Yeah.
64 million views, 39 million views. This next one's called Bad Romance. These are all actually, they take top
Right.
top 40 songs, and then they just remix them. So clearly somebody else wrote that music. They didn't.
Yeah.
They don't. So what would they have done if said, I have a band and I want to use somebody's music, put it on YouTube, and not cause a whole lot of legal trouble for myself?
Right,
What
so
would
you're
you
not
do?
going to cause legal trouble as long as you understand that you're creating a derivative and you get a clearance to create that derivative. It's basically a derivative. It's similar to the song. People that used to do that are like Weird Al Yankovic. He would create
Yep.
a song, and you're really not allowed to change the melody, but you can add
Change the
different
lyrics.
Yeah, you can't change the lyrics because
Well,
I'm sorry, you can change
Weird
the
Al
lyric. Yeah, on
definitely,
on that part you
beat
can
it
change the
and-
lyrics, but you can't change the melody
Right.
of it. So he would do basically the same song, or what we might call a parody
Right.
or something like that. There are a couple of agencies that get involved in that kind of thing, like Harry Fox, which is
Yep.
part of the mechanical royalties. Like when you wanted to record a song, because everything was mechanical back in the day when they were making albums, they kept the name mechanical royalties. But you'd have to get a mechanical royalty for a certain number, and then the bigger it gets for you, the more the more you sell, the more of a mechanical royalty
Well, you
license
get
you
the
would need.
performance rights to it as opposed to the publishing rights.
Yeah,
So
you can get no.
If
So
I
you,
wrote
yeah,
the song and you recreate it
Yeah.
with or without my rights,
Right.
I still get paid on the publishing, but you get the performance rights credits.
Yeah, so it gets a little tricky. Again, I don't play a lawyer, but only
Yeah.
on television.
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah,
at the
that's
end
the
of the day,
overall
yeah.
breakdown,
But if you take a song like Dolly Parton's "I'll Always Love You," and Whitney Houston did it, she created an incredible version of it. But some people still love Whitney's, and some people love
They love Dolly's,
they
yeah.
love Dolly's version of it.
Yeah.
But she would have to go and get the rights to, not only at that time there were CDs that were printed, so she needed a mechanical rights. Anything that plays on television, whether she was registered with BMI or ASCAP or CSAC, she would have to get pay royalties on it for television, and so it just depends on how many viewers and how many people are going to see it. In order to do that.
But so before we wrap up though, so
Yeah.
just so we all understand as filmmakers and as musicians, as people out in the world,
Yeah.
A lot of these things are very doable.
All
a lot of
doable.
these things are very doable, and especially when you talk about micro, the micro aspects of it. As a musician, you can create these things and put them out in the world and make money at them.
Right.
But it is a full-time job. You can't do it on the weekends and think you're going to make it.
I don't
Well,
know.
you know-
I mean, I think you can. It's no different than a filmmaker who creates a film, full-time job that helps them to fund that. One of my favorite sayings that someone used was Jim Rohn said, you can work full-time at your job and part-time on your fortune. So you can make music in the evening.
You can make music in the evening, and then but they need a person who has the special understanding of how to finance it, how to
Yes.
pull finances out of it, how to place it, and how to do that.
Yes, now that I agree with. You definitely need a publisher. You need someone who is like, I don't make music. My intellect is my music, is my instrument, right? So to give it to someone like me or anyone who's responsible for getting it to that next level, that's kind of what they do every day. I don't have a full-time job. I'm a little bit allergic to jobs.
Yeah.
So
And then on the reverse side of that, like if you're making a film, and let's say not necessarily like a zero budget film, but if you have a budget for a film, it's very important to understand the licensing of the music, because you cannot get it played. And we're talking past YouTube here. We're talking about
not even just YouTube. Yeah.
forget about YouTube.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you're going to get stuck
Facebook,
at
Right.
YouTube level.
YouTube,
Anywhere.
everything, yeah.
But if you're trying to get into film festivals,
Right.
you inside the packet, you have to have the releases for everything
Right.
inside. You don't just send the film off and go, "Hey guys, play this." That's not how it works. You actually have to have the rights and prove it.
So
Anytime someone puts
can
on,
you get the rights directly from the artist if the artist recorded it and
Yes.
written it and actually created that, and you get you're the artist, there's your music, it's on CD, you hand it to me and says, I can sign a piece of paper that gives you permission to do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Can I get past your publisher,
No.
your agent,
No.
all that
No.
stuff?
No.
So I still have to make.
So you asked two questions in
Yeah,
one. So
okay.
the first one is, if you're an independent artist and you have the music and that's your CD and you don't not represented by a publisher, then you can go and cut a deal directly with that artist.
Right.
The artist can also be the publisher, so they can register with ASCAP and BMI
Right.
as the writer, if
Right.
they are also register as the producer share, because sometimes there's music that's put out from the producer, has no lyrics, and there's a percentage that's paid just to the producer because it's a jazz version of it. But
Right.
when it comes to licensing the music, if you have a publisher publisher, they go through the publisher because the publisher gets a share.
Right.
Then the writer gets a share, and their job is to look after your
Right.
money
Right.
and your music.
But no,
But
so, like,
by the
I
way,
look-
one thing that's super important is a lot of times people will put out music and say, I don't own the rights to this. Then essentially what you've done is you've stolen it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just really like 100%.
You mean
because
like on Facebook?
on
and YouTube,
Facebook
it's
or
all over the place
Instagram.
now.
I don't own the
see,
rights to
own the
this.
mu- yeah.
Good. So
I don't own
and you
rights to
couldn't
this.
say that like ride
Yeah.
down the street in someone else's car and go,
Yeah, you'd be like,
I know
"I
you're
own the
pulling me
car,"
over.
yeah.
I don't own this car. Like
don't
we
own the
know you
title
don't
to
own.
this.
We know you don't own this car. Yeah. So you can't really do that, and
Yeah.
it's not that expensive
I
to
don't-
license the music.
Someone's told right, but someone's told me that there's artists like DJs because they'll run somebody's music and do like these live webcasts on YouTube, and all they do is they put I do not own this music, or there's some sort of share, a royalty share.
So
with
content
that
ID,
artist.
yeah, the
Creative
content ID
Commons or
through
something, yeah.
the content ID through YouTube will pick that up.
Yeah.
And they will say you have a choice. You can either take this down, we'll take it down, or you can allow us to run ads.
Right.
And then they run the ads, and then they keep track of those, the
Yes.
spins and how
But
many
the
times it's viewed.
actual artist will get the royalty and not you. So if
Correct.
there's music
That's
on
right.
your thing
That's
and
right.
it belongs to you, you'll never be able to monetize any part of that because
That's right.
it's tainted with something that's
Yeah.
not yours. So anytime someone watches that video,
Yeah.
the artist and the publisher will actually
Right.
get a tick up in
Yeah.
their monetization.
You get a
So,
percentage of
yeah.
the ads, and on top of that, there's just like if you've ever Shazammed anything with your
Right,
phone,
right.
these content IDs will tell you that music belongs to
So
someone else.
so YouTube, is a little bit more forgiving than Facebook
No,
these days.
they're
You-
all fighting. They all
no,
want their money.
No, but YouTube at least has when they detect something,
Right.
you're right, they give you the choice. You
Yeah.
cut it out, or
But YouTube
we'll run ads over
Right.
that, and that tick will go to the,
Right.
but Facebook doesn't.
Facebook will mute it.
Facebook will either mute it
They'll mute
or mute you
Yeah.
as your channel.
Yeah, they
and,
are. They
And
will.
they don't
will.
have as many choices and options.
It's not worth the lawsuit. The truth is, you could go out and buy royalty-free music. You could buy
Right.
bumper music for your beginning of your podcast or radio, and they know that when they hear that, their content ID picks it up and says
Right.
that's royalty-free music. But to support the artist, it's just like if you make the film and you want that film to make a certain amount of money, you wouldn't want someone to download that film and then just watch 100,000 people watched your film for free where they could have paid $5. How would that change your life? And so when you're taking the same
It's
process
like
to make the
what,
film,
music sharing did,
Yeah.
Napster did to the music
but
industry.
Napster's now Spotify, so to speak, because the
Yeah.
same guy who created Napster created
And all the
Spotify.
same people are getting screwed.
Right. Well, you know what? And,
Over.
and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But the idea that a song is playing on the radio, when you were getting 1 cent per viewer, and there's like a certain number of viewers, and you were making money. Today on Spotify, it's kind of the same thing, but you're only maybe one user or one listener. Just like Netflix, I believe there's an algorithm in place where they determine who's getting the most views and how long are they viewing it, and then they do this funky math and come up with how much you get to share in
How
what
much,
we're bringing in. But
It's funny that I contacted a record company who owned the publishing to a favorite band of mine, and because I wanted to use a song in one of my films, and it was wildly cheap.
it's very inexpensive.
It was,
There are
it was
actually
not expensive, and I was going to
Yeah.
get the full rights to if I said the name of the band, everybody listening, everybody would know the name of the band.
Right.
And it was a couple $100, but it wasn't $200,000 to get the song. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world, and a lot of times you can find this information out pretty quickly if you find out like who manages the band or whatever music group we're talking about, and you can just do a little bit of digging and really get a quote pretty quickly.
So-
and if you're a student, it's even cheaper because they recognize the position that you're in, and a lot of these artists, if the artist is involved with the choice making, and a lot of times they are, if they're still active making the music, they want you to use the music because they want you to spread it to your if you're a student, that means you're young and if you're a creative, they go, yeah, we'll give it to you for,
Yeah.
we might even give it to you for free.
So I'm not aware of those, but I can tell you what, though. There are websites out there, and so we're going to blame the not knowing the name at the moment on
Yeah.
the getting older.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
there are websites where you can just simply go in there, put in the song that you want, put your credit card in. They'll tell you how much it's going to cost, and
And
you clear
boom,
the
you
song.
are.
You're
Really?
done.
Nice.
Like you have a
Nice.
digital license.
Yeah.
You know, it's downloadable,
That would
and
be
that's
good
your license.
information to
Yeah,
know.
it's on there. But there's so many different ones you can go to, song clearance websites, and you can go there. Some of them are very reputable. Read their reviews and how many other people have used them. You just go in there, you put in the song, and boom, you're done.
See, like I don't rip any music, and never have, and
Yeah.
I always pay for the music that I own, and because as a musician and as an artist and whatnot, I get it. But now that I make movies, I also pay for the music that I use. If I'm not creating it originally with another musician,
Right.
Which I do, and I get individual tracks, like you were saying.
Right.
earlier.
You
If
have the
I
stems
work
and you
with a
can-
musician,
Yeah.
I say, listen, send me every track single, and then send me the whole thing put together, because you never know when you're going to have
Right.
to do something. But yeah, I pay for all those bumpers and all those things that, even the little sound effects in the horror films.
Right.
I pay for all that stuff.
But you even need contracts for that too. Like a lot of times, just paying them is sort of this unilateral contract. Hey, I bought this from you. But you need contracts that say this is what I own. Because if you take that to a Netflix, they're going to ask 1,000,001 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who owns this?
Yeah, they wanna know
where'd
it
this
all.
come from? And where'd this
Yeah.
come from? It's like when they recall something, they want to know what farm it was created on. So
Right.
they want to know where that music came from.
So even like a service, like I use Audio Blocks, and I pay them like $150 a year.
yeah, that's why your
and-
royalty-free music. Those
Yeah,
are your
but even
little-
that stuff triggers YouTube, kind of red flags YouTube, because a lot of this music is copywritten, and YouTube will see it and flag it, and then go, yeah, but I paid for it. Well, now I can't monetize it because I used it.
Yes. You can't monetize it.
Can't
but-
monetize it, but I can use it. But it will red flag.
It's
and I
okay,
can
too.
and I can submit a
Yes.
thing that says, here's my account with
Yeah.
this service, and there you go. But
you go.
I'll never monetize it. But yet it's still now I pay a flat fee. Which probably comes out to pennies per song that I've used over many projects over the year, and it works out good. Mostly instrumental. I'll never find anything. Sometimes there's stuff with vocals on it. Sometimes it's just rehashed songs from music that's public domain that somebody
Listen.
re-records
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and it works out pretty
That's
good.
the other thing too. We were talking earlier about derivatives. If you want someone to record a song, maybe sounds like the original band that has that, you can actually get someone else to record a derivative of it, which is a lot cheaper than buying the original.
yeah.
So there's other ways
That's
to
more.
go.
Is that mechanical rights?
That's it. Yeah, mechanical rights.
Yeah,
you can get
I've heard
mechanical
that.
Well,
rights.
that's how you get
Yeah.
like Pulp Fiction. Like the Pulp Fiction soundtrack is almost all derivatives.
Yeah.
Half the album is derivatives
Right.
of the album, because
Exactly.
So he gets
So-
so instead of Neil Diamond, he
Right.
gets the Afghan Wigs to do a Neil Diamond song. You
There
know
you
what I
go.
mean? Like,
There
So
you go.
this
And Neil's not
YouTube-
mad. He's still making coin. What is he? He's not
Yeah.
mad. Yeah.
So this YouTube channel that's Postmodern Jukebox, that they're re-recording other people's content, is probably very cost-effective for them, and yet they're still getting millions of
Getting
views.
millions
but
of
they
views.
tour.
Yeah. Oh, they do tour. I'm
Yeah,
sure
they've
that
come to
definitely-
Orlando.
Have they?
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah,
missing.
actually, not that long ago. There we go.
Well,
Yeah. Whatever rings the register.
so guys,
you know?
8:36.
All right,
If we've
we're
got
doing
more to
it. We're
talk
outta
about,
here.
or
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Let's
I'm
go.
done.
Gene Culver, thank you for stepping
Yeah,
in.
No problem.
It's an absolute joy. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I had a great time. This has been great. I thought you guys were going to roast me, and you didn't. I appreciate
Why would we
that.
do that?
I don't know.
I don't know you well enough.
we only roast people after they leave
Yeah,
the room.
once you leave.
Okay, so
And-
tune in next week for
Yeah.
see?
So,
Remember that guy
yeah,
that
we're
was
back
on
next
there?
week, man.
Hey, thanks Arlene for chiming in. Oh, Daniel Peretti
oh,
chimed
Dan,
in at the very end of this.
what'd he say?
He says, "So write your own music."
He wants your job, actually.
Does he want my job?
He wants
wants
to
to sit
there.
here?
He wants to sit there.
Daniel,
and do the thing.
come to the studio next Tuesday night, 5 o'clock, just so we can kind of sit and chat. And I might have you. I might
He
have
didn't
you-
put him right on the show. He
might
said,
have you
come in
do
at
some-
5.
Yeah,
I
the
might
show
sound-
starts at 7, so you have
Yeah.
to leave by 6:40.
Yeah, please don't show up. Joe shows up at 20 minutes to 7, goes, nah, that person didn't show up tonight. So I'm like,
Listen,
all right. I
and there's
guess
no
just
hair
you
and
and me,
makeup.
and then Gene shows up 5 minutes before, and you really stepped in it tonight.
Yeah,
So, but
thank you.
no,
I
you did
appreciate
great.
it.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I shoot from the hip. Yeah,
Daniel,
so I'll
you can
talk
have
to you,
it.
Dan. Dan, you can have the job. You're hired.
Jimmy Brown at the very end of this says, Jimmy Brown says, nice podcast, guys. So thanks, Jimmy.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Please follow, like, and share. We are eventually going to come up with a name for this show.
The name for the show. We've
I
had this
know.
conversation even on the podcast.
Really?
It's called Enough About Me.
Yeah,
Ah,
but
I see.
yet still it winds up being a lot about you there.
Enough,
No,
well, because
no,
the saying
it's
is
great.
enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of me?
It went full circle that quick.
Yeah, yeah, we
Just
all
like
stepped
that.
in it. So
It's
Yeah.
a joke.
much smoother night tonight than it was last night. But I think we had a great time. It was fun.
Thank you.
It was
all.
great. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Gene.
me. Appreciate
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, audience. Enjoy.
Hey, guys.
Hey, happy 4th of July.
Yeah. Boom.